biggest of them all. Step back, 4-3. Phoenix forced a turnover at halfway. Yes, sir.
Clock at 10. Adams the off balance.
Oh my goodness!
Two on the clock.
Alrighty guys, and welcome back to the Basketball Fix podcast and day number 4 of the NBL Free Agency Fix. I'm super excited to be continuing on with this series. Obviously, there's been a bit of a pause between obviously day 3 and day 4. We've had a couple of guests lined up to be on the show, but they've had to unfortunately cancel on us the last couple of days. So sort of at the mercy, I guess, of some backup co-hosts and everything like that. But nothing's really worked out. But I'm excited to be back today talking about NBL free agency and talking about a few of the biggest things in which you, the listeners and the fans of the Basketball Fix podcast, want to have answered. Now, I put a post out last night, and if you want to get involved on the next time I do this, which will be probably next week, I put a post out saying, what are some of the biggest questions that you want to know and you sort of want answers for heading into NBL 26's off-season and free agency period. So if you want to get involved, go check out the Basketball Fix on Instagram. At the Basketball Fix podcast on Instagram. Check it out. Give us a follow. Get involved. Plenty of stuff out there. Memes, some photos of NBL free agency stuff, going down history and memory lane with the NBL and everything like that as well. Go check it out. Nearly at 2,000 followers. We're looking forward to having you on board there as well. And also check out the NBL 26 free agency tracker at the Basketball Fix website as well. www.thebasketballfix.com.au. Now let's get into today's episode because we've got a couple of questions here and we don't want to be rambling on for too long at the start of the episode. The first one though is obviously the disappointing news last night in Game 4 of the NBL Finals. Sam Froling went down with an Achilles injury. Now, he's one of the big domino pieces coming into NBL 26's free agency period. And he's been one of the guys that we've spoken about quite often so far already on the first 3 days, essentially as well. Now, does this injury impact him going into NBL 26? Well, 100% it's going to. I think it's going to rule him out essentially of the whole NBL 26 season because we know with these Achilles injuries, they aren't just 6 to 8 month injuries. They are as close to 12-month injuries as you can possibly see. It's such a disappointing thing for Sam Froling because at the end of the day, let's just say it is a 12-month injury. Pretty much the earliest he can return is if the Illawarra Hawks once again make the NBL Championship Series in NBL 26. So I'm heartbroken for Sam Froling. He's a guy who seems like such a great guy. His family's obviously been through so much, obviously, with what Harry's been going with over the last couple of seasons. Obviously, massive shout out to Harry. He's playing incredible basketball over there at the NZ NBL. But for a guy like Sam Froling, this is 100% going to impact his NBL free agency experience because I think there's still going to be interest from teams around the league, but they're going to be a lot more wary when they sign Sam Froling because most of these teams are going to want to sign him to, you'd suspect, 2 to 3 year contracts. Now, with him essentially missing the first year of that contract, it's going to be interesting to see how they structure these contracts. Is it going to be a back-ended deal where the sort of money at the start of the contract is not that great because he's not playing basketball, but the last 2 seasons will be really increased cap hits and how they structure their rotations and their rosters and everything like that? That's going to be hard for teams to do. Obviously, like we've mentioned with Sam Froling, the 3 teams that seem to be the most interested in him are the Illawarra Hawks, the Sydney Kings, and Melbourne United. So, when we look at the Sydney Kings and Melbourne United, they can 100% afford to obviously make it a back-end contract, figure out their money and everything like that, and structure it so Sam Froling may be taking, over $1 million potentially in his last season of that 3-year deal. So there's going to be some really big impacts. I think now, though, with this injury, I think he stays 100% at the Illawarra Hawks. I think they're a team in which he trusts, he knows the medical staff, he knows the sort of system, he knows the place, he loves the sort of, seems to be loving the close-knit community there down at Wollongong as well. And I just can't see him now leaving the Illawarra Hawks. I think his brother Harry will also sign as well at the Illawarra Hawks. That will be a massive decision as to potentially why Sam will stay, especially whilst he'll be rehabbing an injury potentially for a whole season as well. It's just heartbreaking. Thinking about this and having this conversation right now, I am genuinely heartbroken for Sam Froling because it's just such big news. And it's big news even in the fact of this NBL Championship Series. Like when we think about this has the ramifications to potentially turn the whole series on its head because the Illawarra Hawks, they won Game 4 without Trey Kell and without Sam Froling, and now they go back home with what they should be having momentum going back home for a Game 5, but there's Do we know if Trey Kell's going to play Game 5? Sam Froling's definitely not going to play Game 5. It's just been such an up and down series, and potentially for him to be this close to an NBL championship, in which not many players get the chance to do so, it's going to be really, really hard to see sort of where they go from here as well. So I think what we got to do right now is just put some prayers out, obviously, for Sam Froling, and make sure that we get around him in the community. And, you know, send out messages and just have positive thoughts around Sam Froling as well. And that's just hope from an Illawarra Hawks perspective, or a Sydney Kings perspective, a Melbourne United, or whoever signs Sam Froling, they don't do him dirty. That's the most important part right now. What we've got to think about from a long-term perspective is Sam's only 25. We've seen Dejan Vasiljevic in recent seasons go down with the Achilles injury. We've seen Jack White go down with an Achilles injury. Sam will potentially come back late 26 or early 27 years of age. That's the prime years of your basketball career. 27 to 30 to 31, 32 roughly is your prime of your professional career. So he's not going to be coming back at 31, 32 and you're having to pay him for 2 or 3 years. He's coming back in the thick of his career, where you can already see the signs of him becoming a very good professional basketball player in the NBL. So I hope from a player's perspective, and I speak about from a player's perspective, meaning that we don't do anyone dirty, that Sam Froling gets signed to a 2 or 3 year contract, in which he was already going to get signed to with some decent money, and just structure it the way that you want to structure it. If you don't want to pay him to be rehabbing at a high rate, make sure you're paying him when he's playing to get some of that money back, in which he can't obviously have. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Sam sort of does in NBL free agency, and fingers crossed for Sam as well, in which he gets back on the court very, very shortly back in the NBL, doing what he loves doing. Now, let's get into the other big question of NBL free agency, which we haven't spoken about officially, and it's the Brisbane Bullets. Obviously, Justin Schuler was sacked from the Brisbane Bullets before the off-season kicked off, essentially straight after the season as well. Now, all reports are coming out that, you know, essentially, we've heard some rumors that Tyrell Harrison has said to members that he was training us too hard, and there's been rumors about that, and they were getting too many injuries and everything like that. Well, I don't know how hard you've got to train someone to say you've been training them too hard. Obviously, I wasn't there and everything like that, but you've got to set a culture, don't you? And that's the hard thing, because the Brisbane Bullets have been pretty mediocre for the past 5 to 10 years. And for a coach to come in, essentially, I believe, to try to change the culture, training them hard, working them hard, everything like that, I don't necessarily think there's a wrong thing with it. Now, can you overtrain people? 100%. Maybe that's where it comes in. It's a bit of a fine line. Maybe you're bringing him in extra days when they need to have rest days and everything like that. But if you're training them hard for a 1 or 2 hour stint every couple of days, well, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing for the culture and everything like that as well. So obviously, Justin Schuler's been sacked, and I don't think he'll see another NBL coaching job at any point in his career. I think he'll be back in the NBL 1. He wasn't a very respected or liked coach for whatever reason in the NBL community, it seemed like as well. So for him to be back in the NBL 1 level, applying his trade, he's going to do very good for a team at that level. But the two big candidates potentially for the Brisbane Bullets coming into this off-season is Chase Buford and Mody Maor, a couple of ex-NBL coaches as well, who have had some success at different stages in their NBL career. We've seen Chase Buford walk away with 2 NBL championships, and we've seen Mody Maor obviously lead the New Zealand Breakers to a championship series where they eventually lost to the Sydney Kings as well. Now, I can't pick a sort of winner right now when I look at these two teams. And because when we look at the roster, and we'll just look at the Brisbane Bullets as contracted players heading into NBL 26, you've got Casey Prather, who's re-signed. You've got this weird situation building with James Bateman, who is signed on a 2-year contract, and the second year is this year. But there's rumors that the sort of president and the GM and everything like that are, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens and everything like that. So that's a weird situation for sure there with James Bateman. We've obviously seen Josh Bannon already opt out of his player option there. We've got Josh Coonan on a player option. We've got Kai Savage contracted. We've got Mitch Norton contracted. We've got Sam McDaniel contracted. And Towie Smith-Milner has also re-upped his contract as well. So, and obviously we've got Tyrell Harrison, who's signed on a 2-year deal. So they've got a really nice basis. So when we put it into perspective, you're probably out of your starting lineup. You've got Casey Prather, Bateman if he does return in that starting lineup as well, potentially a Sam McDaniel or Mitch Norton, and you've also got a Tyrell Harrison. So there's obviously rumors that they're going to go very hard after a guy like PJC, or even a potentially Matthew Dellavedova has been the big rumor for a Brisbane Bullets perspective as well. But it comes down to the coach. Now, who do I see as the best coach was the question on the Instagram there as well. And I see it being Chase Buford. And it's only for one reason. And I know Mody Maor has obviously taken his team to a championship series, but Chase Buford's taken two teams to two championship series and walked away as the winner in those series. Now, I know he's a hard coach, and maybe that's not the sort of coach that this team needs right now, potentially, with obviously all the rumors coming out as they have come out. But I think he's the right coach for the job. I love Mody Maor as well, though Mody Maor seems more of a player's coach, whereas I just feel like Chase Buford, if you want that bit of a harder edge in which you need sometimes, obviously, to win an NBL championship, he's the guy who's going to provide that as well. So he may also, if Chase Buford comes in, is there a possibility that some of these Sydney Kings guys potentially go, I want to go play for him again? You've got a guy like Jalen Adams, who's obviously coming off of a contract this year. Is he a guy potentially that the Chase Buford and the Brisbane Bullets can potentially sign going into NBL 26? I don't know. Obviously Mody Maor, that's the rumor and the linking with him and PJC. If he signs for the Brisbane Bullets, is the PJC going to potentially sign with the Brisbane Bullets? I don't know. These guys are well-respected coaches in the NBL. They've been to the league as well. That's the biggest thing. It's very hard most of the time for either players, when I'm meaning import players, or coaches to come over from the NBA system to the NBL and make the adjustment because it's such a different game style. We play FIBA basketball rules over here. If you've seen that, is it Court of Golds, I believe it is, the Netflix series, you hear Steve Kerr on there all the time saying, this is a different game. This is a different game, guys. This isn't NBA basketball. This is European. This is international basketball. Everything's different. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing who obviously gets this job. I think this is a massive step in the right direction, obviously, for the Brisbane Bullets. They believe they're in the championship window. They believe they can win one in the next couple of seasons. And they believe that these two guys, or one of these guys, will be the key to that success as well. So I'm not sold on them being a championship contender as of yet. But if they have a massive start of the season next year, I'll be more than happy to jump onto the bandwagon there as well as them being a championship hope. Now, the next question that we received on our Instagram is who will be the next big NBA star to join the NBL? Now, we're speaking former players. Obviously, the big buzz last year was Montrezl Harrell coming over to the league and dominating and making some big sort of headways, essentially, when it comes to the connection between the NBA and the NBL and the worldwide audience, essentially, was the big thing out of it. Now, there's a few names in which I'm interested to sort of throw out here as well. The first one is obviously Isaiah Thomas, in which has been rumored the last couple of seasons. He posted a cryptical message on Twitter, I think it was a couple of years back, saying, I love Australia. How good is it out here? Everything like that. Eventually wasn't signed to an NBL team. He's currently over in the G League, I believe it is, applying his craft. But is he a guy potentially that the NBL could bring over? He's a guy who would just fit perfectly in the NBL. Bryce Cotton, Kendrick Davis, Jalen Adams, to that degree as well. The same sort of player. I think he'd dominate the NBL, to be honest with you. But I don't think we'll see him in the NBL come NBL 26. Now, John Wall's another name. Obviously, a part owner of the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. We've seen part owners of their teams come back and play, a la Andrew Bogut for the Sydney Kings a couple of years ago as well. I think there's a chance that Johnny Wall may put the boots back on and have a bit of a run around as well. Do I think it'll happen in NBL 26? Not necessarily. I'm just not certain. I'm not sure. He comes over and trains all the time in the mornings, in the off seasons, I should say, as well, and does have a really strong connection, obviously, to the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix with being an owner. But will we see him in the NBL 26 season for Southeast Melbourne? I am unsure, with obviously Nathan Sobey and Derek Walton potentially re-signing for the team. Now, other NBA players, it's a tough one because I think the league is in such a great spot. But I don't think we're going to get anyone of the sort of caliber that Montrezl Harrell has been for such a long time, purely based because Montrezl Harrell has the talent to be in the NBA still, but the only thing holding him out of the NBA is his attitude and his persona, essentially, when it comes to NBA basketball. We've seen him have fights with teammates, coaching staff, and organizations everywhere. He loves the old cease and desist. We won't really find out many of those rumors, but there is a reason why he's not in the NBA anymore, and he's having to apply his trade in CBA, in the NBL, and possibly other leagues around the world as well. So I don't think we'll see a six-man of the year caliber player. I don't think we'll see a superstar caliber player in the NBL anytime soon, to the degree of Montrezl Harrell. But if we get Montrezl Harrell back for NBL 26, I think most fans will be genuinely happy about that, and obviously the league will be happy about that as well. Now, the last little topic in which we'll touch on was a couple of questions as well about the Cairns Taipans and what their roster is looking like going into NBL 26 and touching on a couple of their rumors as well. Now, the Cairns Taipans are in a very weird spot come NBL 26's free agency period. So, they've got one player contracted for the NBL 26 season, and that's Cody Statman. Besides that, they've got Kyron Galloway to an option. They've got Dylan Stiff to an option. Stife, sorry, I think it is actually. And then they've got Alex Higgins-Titcher to an option as well. Now, I've spoken to Alex, and he's unsure about the sort of, I guess, timing around when his option will be coming out, but I think that'd be stupid to not bring him back come NBL 26. I think obviously Kyron Galloway, would they be stupid to not bring him back come NBL 26? And Dylan is obviously going to come up to how he performs in the off-season at camps and everything like that. Obviously, they've got to make that decision very quickly, but if you go and watch the 3x3 with him and Adam Ford, he was massive for the Australian 3x3 team. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back for NBL 26 as well. He's a naturalized import. It's an easy decision for me, to be fair, for some depth. Now, coming off of contract is where it gets interesting. Obviously, Adam Ford has left the club and will no longer be the coach of the team. You've got Lachlan Anderson, Jonah Antonio, Taron Armstrong, Pedro Bradshaw, Rob Edwards, AK Gack, Tanner Groves, Jackson McCoy, and Sam Wardenberg. There's a lot of talent there. Now, obviously, some of the rumors, when we do look at the current players for the Cairns Taipans coming into NBL 26, well, the big one is obviously Sam Froling. That's where we'll start for the Cairns Taipans. It's rumored that they are potentially looking at a deal in which will bring Sam Wardenberg back for a couple of seasons, whether it's a 2 or 3 option. 2 or 3 year deal is undecided as of right now, but it is looking very, very likely that he will return to the Cairns Taipans come NBL 26, which for Cairns Taipans fans, that is the most exciting choice of, I think, the NBL free agency period. If you lose Taron Armstrong, that's fine. Right. At the end of the day, though, if you get Sam Wardenberg back, who is on this trajectory to being an NBL superstar, you will 100% take that. Now, from another couple of important pieces, I think, for the Cairns Taipans, you got Tanner Groves as well. Now, I spoke about him on another podcast a couple of weeks ago, potentially about him being the right fit for a Melbourne United sort of player and teammate and everything like that. But it does seem that Tanner Groves is going to re-sign with the Cairns Taipans on probably a 2-year deal. It does seem like it may be a 1 year and an option. That may be a team option or a player option. Unsure of what it seems like right now, but it is seeming more likely that he will be back for NBL 26. Obviously, dealt with a couple of injuries last season. And when he got going towards the back end of the year, he was incredible. You could see what Adam Ford had saw in him in his college career and everything like that to bring him over to Cairns. He was great. So I think he'll return with Sam Wardenberg, which is 2 massive pieces of the puzzle. Obviously, Pedro Bradshaw has confirmed as well that he would be open to returning to the Cairns Taipans. And Rob Edwards is not expected to re-sign in the Cairns Taipans going forward. Now, the big name, which I mentioned earlier, and you can see him on the screen as well, Taron Armstrong. This is the $1 million question. He's obviously signed a 2-way deal over there for the Golden State Warriors in the NBA G League. But I don't think if he returns to the NBL, he returns to Cairns at all. He's obviously rumored to be signing at the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers. He's a Tassie boy, everything like that. I know people are saying, oh, well, he didn't sign when he could have signed as a next star and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm sorry, but I think he'll genuinely sign at the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers if he decides to come back to the NBL. There's too much talk about it for just being just a thing in the air. So the Cairns Taipans are in such a peculiar spot come into NBL 26. Like, I think you've got to look at the local guys and sort of the younger guys coming through. And I'm going to name a few names here in terms of who I think the Cairns Taipans should chase come NBL 26's free agency period. You got Ben Air. I think obviously he's expected to re-sign with the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, but if you can get him and bring him over to the Cairns Taipans, that would be a nice piece. I think Michael Harris, the former Perth Wildcat, who is up for a new contract coming NBL 26, I think he's the guy who they could possibly go after and look to sign and obviously have him have a big NBL season. I think he's just ready to have that next step. It's just the opportunity right now, which is holding him back from making that jump, obviously, to a good NBL player. You've obviously got Mr. Roman Sulapa, now obviously former NBL next star for the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, obviously released from that contract. Didn't really have a good relationship there, it seemed like, with the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, but man, He's a guy who is constantly having conversations, obviously, with the Cairns Taipans and with the NBL, I should say, with the NBL Next Star program. And the Cairns Taipans obviously don't have a Next Star coming in to NBL 26. Maybe he's a guy they look to go after as well. And the last two names in which I'm going to speak about is Flynn Cameron, which is where we'll start, and Alex Dukas as well. So Flynn Cameron is obviously coming off of contract with the Melbourne United this year, and there's a chance, obviously, that he may look to expand his NBL career at another club. Now, he's been linked to teams like the New Zealand Breakers, the Brisbane Bullets, the Cairns Taipans, and the Perth Wildcats as well. Now, I think the Cairns fit would be perfect for a guy like Flynn Cameron. Once again, you're getting to come up here to be the star on the team, potentially earn yourself a big contract, and then potentially go back to another team as the star player as well down the track. So I think he's a guy in which would be a massive signing for one of those teams, as in particular the Cairns Taipans. And Alex Dukas as well, if he decides to return to the NBL, the Cairns Taipans seem to be the front runner to obviously get his signage and signature as well. But that will wrap up today's episode. Sorry, it's been a bit of a shorter one. It's been a bit of a quick put together episode. You may be able to tell, hopefully not. It's early in the morning over here, trying to get some content out for everyone over in the Eastern States and the NBL community, because the NBL free agency period is my favorite time of the year, and I want to get as much content out as possible. And I'm sorry, obviously, once again, that we haven't been able to have the regular sort of scheduling in which I wanted to have for this series due to obviously some unfortunate sort of decisions and timings, I guess you could say, is probably the better way of going into it. But it's going to be interesting, obviously, going forward for this series. We're going to have JD from the Tasmanian Takeover in next week's episode, in tomorrow's episode, I should say, where we break down the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers signings and everything like that as well. So I'm looking forward to that episode in particular. But until next time, though, this has been NBL Free Agency Fix Day 4, and I hope you've gotten your basketball fit.
Turnover at halfway. Yes, sir.
Clock at 10. Adams the off balance. Oh!